Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time it is for you. I'm Cyclone. It's time for more Train Simulator Classic, and we are going to do the Geordie Deltic scenario on East Coast Mainline today. This is only available in career form, which is fine because I'm showing it in career form. Now, the first thing I need to point out about this scenario is that it is only set for 250 points per stop, and there are only 3 stops. As you can see, that means you can't get a top score on this scenario. As you can also see, there are people who have a top score on this scenario. Now, all of my friends, to their credit, are not people who do this type of thing, but I feel it is fair to be able to have the expectation that you are able to accomplish the primary objective, and as a result, I am going to treat this as a 334 per stop scenario. I have simply edited the scenario file to make it 334 points, as it should be, to make it properly possible. I doubt this will be fixed someday, but I hope it's fixed someday because it should be. And if Deltic Games really does have an interest in keeping the career aspect of their scenarios and keeping the scoreboards and things like that, then they really should fix it and make it suitable. So as a note, Highball Simulation at the top of my list there, on my friends list, has the top score that is possible in this scenario. I'm going to forever break the friends list and probably ask some questions when I actually complete my run and get the full 1,000, because that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show how you would get 1,000 points in this scenario if it was set up properly to allow for it. So I'm basically doing exactly what Highball Simulation did in his run of the scenario. I'm just doing it with an edited point score. Now, with that said, you may have also noticed that there is one scenario missing from this list. If I go to the main list, you'll notice there's a Class 31 scenario here. As you can see, there's no Class 31 scenario listed. The reason is because there is a bug with how some scenarios show on the menu. I will fix that bug manually because I will need to put an edited version of the scenario in to make that show up properly on this menu. It does show up on the main menu, and the scenario should still work without it. It just doesn't show up properly on the menu because it's not listing its information properly in the scenario properties file, which is what is looked at when this menu is generated. So since the scenario properties file does not seem to show the information for the scenario that this menu requires when searching, it doesn't show up. So we'll look at that in the future when we get to the Class 31. I will show you the information and I'll explain exactly what needs to be done to make it show up in the menu properly. It turns out some other old scenarios have the problem as well, such as the BNSF scenarios, the original DLC 24012, which is still available as a separate pickup item. So it is a common problem. It is something that for career scenarios you have to replace the file to fix it. There's nothing you can do to make it work in this menu otherwise. In any case, let's get into this one today, Geordie Deltic. It says it's a 90-minute scenario, but I can tell you it is a 78-minute scenario. Let's get started. You are scheduled to leave at 8:03. Allow passengers to board here at York before you depart. As you can see, I've already opened the doors, and if we continue along the platform, we'll notice all the doors are open. So there's one, and we continue all the way to the back. I did not mean to go up, but you know what? I'll take it. Wrong button. Apparently the control key lets you move up and down when you do this. So let's continue all the way to the back. You can see the back doors on the train are open as well. And, well, a little note when you open the doors, guys. Notice the time is 8:00:45. Our boarding is technically completed because the game thinks it's completed right now. However, if you do wait for maybe about 20 seconds to open the doors, you will get your appropriate departure time of 8:03, which is on the option. So technically we've already got our points for this option. You can see also that I did indeed get the 334 working. So all I had to do was change the 250 to 334 and it works. You ever wonder how people were able to get illegal, impossible scores in scenarios? I'm showing you how it's done right now. All you do is change one number in the file and it takes it. That's literally all you do. And it's kind of funny that it's that easy to change it. So, I mean, it's something that's so easy to fix. Change one number in one file, re-upload to Steam, everyone gets the full score possible. That's all they have to do, but apparently it is too much for one file to be changed. And I understand it's a QA thing, but at the same time, something so easy and it's considered cheating to actually fix this type of thing. I don't get it. In any case, we have a train coming in, train number 55022, is coming in on the right side. Now, all of the 55 trains in this scenario are obviously 55 BR blue. All 37s in this scenario are BR blue split head code. So not any other model like from... I'm trying to remember what other routes have a 37. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I can't. But it's not a different 37. It's the Kuju one, basically. It's not the Armstrong Powerhouse one either. Later on, 47s start showing up as well. 47s are all BR blue as well. So all the trains are BR blue. I am waiting for 803 or close to 803 to depart. And the reason for that is because if I do not wait until 803 and I come to the first signal, it will be red. Because a train that left ahead of us, train number... Actually, I'm going to just refer to the car number instead of saying class da-da-da. It's number 37631, which is a stopping service. It left before us. We're close to the time now, so we're going to get going. In fact, we are at the time, so let's get moving. Let's move immediately up to 15 miles per hour. Now note the second tone is not pressed by me. It's part of the single audio for the single tone that we are allowed. So it actually plays as a two-tone in a fixed set. I'm sure the Armstrong Powerhouse sound pack fixes that, so you have to have a separate tone and it actually activates the second tone. So I'm going to turn off my menu on the task list now. Actually, I'll bring it back up for a second just to show you we are heading to Darlington and Newcastle. That's all we're doing. We are going to be there easily to Darlington, probably a couple minutes early, and we're going to be at Newcastle most likely on time as well. I think I had about a minute to spare, but it was a very comfortable ride. I didn't feel like I was rushing in the initial run. Notice the moon, very noticeably visible in the sky up ahead. So the moon is up there. By the way, the route to Scarborough heads off to the right. I did confirm. I looked at the open railway map, and I did confirm that is indeed the route to Scarborough. I think the tooltip says it as well. We're getting a ding. If I look ahead, we can see that we do have... Is that a red signal on my route? That's a red signal on my route. I need to actually... Wow, okay, that was unexpected. There's the yellow. We're good now. So I told you you would get a red. If you left at 802 or 8... Well, you couldn't leave at 801, but if you left at 802, you got a red signal. That's basically what you get. That slows you down. There's no point leaving before 803. I didn't think it would be red at that point. It clears at 8:04 and 29 seconds on the initial play I had. I didn't notice the time it cleared that time, but it is somewhere in that range. It's not exact every time. There's no exact science to it. So we're now going fully at 30 miles per hour. We have a 50 coming up. That'll get us to our 125. So we did pass a yellow signal. We are going to see the next note is going to be a train coming up, and then we're going to see a line leave that I will point out here if I notice it. Okay, here's a right curve right now. This is going to take us by the York Low Yard. So we're going to be seeing that yard in just a moment up ahead here. After this right curve. The York sidings themselves and the south sidings and all that have all joined us by this point. I didn't call out when they merged in as we left the station. This is train number 55021. That is a stopping service today. Now, I'm going to attempt to avoid wheel slip as I get up to my top speed, so I'm not going to put full throttle on. I will put enough that I can still gain at a reasonable pace. Once I hit 60 miles per hour, I should be clear to apply full throttle. Right now, I'm still within a 50. You can see we're now getting a green signal, so everything is good as far as that goes. I think we're now in the York Low Yard. And we should momentarily be seeing the line to Harrogate leaving on the left. That might be it right there, actually. That might be the line to Harrogate leaving right now. Need to cut out my speed for a second. I don't necessarily need to go right to the speed limit. I have plenty of time to do this. There's the 125. So let's get it up above 60. That's when I think it's some sort of an RPM change, and that's why we get wheel slip if we have high throttle. So we have to hold on to it until we get to 60. At that point, we can go ahead and move it up. Oh, it doesn't look like an RPM change after all. We just get some weird wheel slip from time to time. That's it. So I can move the throttle up now. Only because of the noise, I am going to hold off putting up to 100 immediately, but I will give you a chance to hear it in a moment. Still a little bit of lag here and there, you may have noticed. I'm not going to be cutting it out because it is very, very minor. If I were to get a really long bout of lag, I would try to cut it out. Let's take a moment to hear this thing at full throttle. So there is no law against going above 100 miles per hour in the game. You can notice I brought up to 102, and the reason I did that is so I could lower the throttle and be able to talk to you a little more quiet, a little bit more quiet tone here without feeling like I'm shouting. So that's why I wanted to bring that down a little bit, or bring that up a little bit, I should say. Now you notice that we just passed a train. That was the train that left at the beginning of the scenario. So that was 37631. We've already seen him leaving as the scenario started. I didn't point it out because I was doing my introduction. But he left as the scenario started. Go back and you will see it on the video there. Turns out I'm losing my speed quickly on this one, so I'm going to go back to 20% and try to hold for a little bit of a speed gain here, at which point I can bring it back down if I need to. There's no point to going, even though you can, it is completely legal within the game premises of speed limit 125. You can go 108 in this section. But if you go 108, you're going to get slowed down anyway because you have to wait for a yellow signal. That yellow signal will not appear until roughly about 8:36 or somewhere in that range. This is a train that is in Darlington Platform 4. We'll talk about that as we arrive. As you see, we stop in Darlington Platform 4. So there's a train there right now. And we have to wait for that train to clear before we can enter the platform. It will not clear until, it won't even move, I should say, until 8:35. It's cleared by sometime around 8:36. So for that reason, we have to be very, very careful and not go 102 like I am right now. So you notice a train going by there. I think that was the 37032. That was an express. So that one's just heading straight to York and not stopping at every passenger station along the way. Which there are none at this point to York. I mean, it wouldn't have stopped at Thirsk. It might not have stopped at Northallerton. It may have stopped at Darlington. I don't know. But it may have just also be an express from Newcastle for all I know. We don't actually have service details for each of the trains here. So I can't comment as to what each train is doing as a stopping pattern, even for the stopping services. We're going to eventually see our first class 47. That's the next train we're going to see. And that will be train number 47055. So keep an eye out for that. Then there are some sidings I want to point out. There it is. 47055. So I found it funny in the last scenario, as I was getting my recording run for you, one of the trains claimed to go off path, and I'm still confused as to how it managed to not go into its portal or how it got moved to a different route away from its portal. Because when I actually looked at the map at an earlier time in the run that you got to see the second half of, the train wasn't even on the map. So how did it leave its path? I have no idea. I am mystified by that. Sometimes trains will do weird things, dispatchers will do weird things. So I'm at 103, let's not go too fast here. Not that I don't mind having delicious tea and biscuits with the boss. I don't even drink tea, I'm just going to say it's delicious. Biscuits are, I'm sure, delicious. The boss will only have the finest biscuits. Very discerning palate. By biscuits, I do mean something on the lines of what you would call, like if you think of McDonald's, they call the Egg McMuffin, kind of like the thing you get that on. I can't remember the name of the thing right now. I am so embarrassed by this. I should know this. I should know what that is. Embarrassing on my part. Which is probably why the English just call them biscuits. Whatever easy name can come up for it, we'll do it. Now, I'm watching for the sightings that show up here. I don't think I've seen them yet. And I may have missed them. If I did miss them, I will put a tooltip on the video showing where it is. I don't think they've come up yet, though. So I'm going to hold off. Actually, I think it's coming in this area right here, because I missed it on my initial run. I actually had my map up when I drove by here on the initial run, so I don't have a landmark for this. You think I would know it from prior runs? I didn't even notice it on prior runs either, so I want to make sure I know where it is when it comes by here. So I hope you had a safe New Year celebration. I hope you are ready for some more fun and games in the next coming year, because I'm going to keep playing them and you're going to keep playing them, and anyone else you watch on YouTube or Twitch is going to keep playing them. So yeah. What should I call this? Nerds on trains? I don't know. So our arrival at Darlington is expected at this point to be 8:37 and 36 seconds. I think that's a little early. I don't think we're going to get that. Simply because we're going to have to wait for a train to leave before we can pull into the platform. By the way, if you heard me say earlier that the train is in the platform now and I'm waiting for it to leave 8:35, and what train would be at Darlington for 35 minutes? Let's remember this is Train Simulator Classic. The way the game is coded, sometimes things will break and signals will not allow you through and things like that. Even if they should, and you have to request to pass them. So sometimes by pathing trains in certain ways, it actually blocks up a signal. I've seen this on the on the Rice to Dresden route, and this is just from a scenario from Leipzig, so this is even on the extension. I've noticed that on that particular scenario, you had to request a tab at the very start of the scenario. You can modify the timings on the train so you go first, the other train doesn't, so you don't see that green. So you see that green signal, the actual green signal, but it still works if you tab pass. It's just a bit of a nuisance having to do that. To ask the signaler twice at the very start of the scenario, did you clear that train? Oh yes, you already asked me, sir. So I might as well tell you what I'm looking for now. The sidings I'm looking for are the Totterton sidings, or the Tollerton sidings, sorry, the Tollerton sidings. And we're supposed to see them before we see the Delta X2 Express, which is a Class 55, coming at us. So if we see that Deltic Express, I missed the sidings. Pull the throttle down to 17%, see if it will drop us back to 100. Keep in mind 101 could simply mean 100.8, 100.9, 100.7, or it could also mean 101.4. So if the speed limit was 100, we would not know at this point if we were speeding, but we would know if we crossed the 101.0 as soon as we do so. This is why it is possible to go to, say, a 126 and a 125 and not be caught speeding, because it does round up. And you do have the extra little bit of a space to work with that you can't see because the decimal is missing and it rounds up. So you know when you hit that number you're safe, but you have to bring it down right away, depending on the increase. I missed the sidings. That was probably our X2 service. Because there is Thirsk coming up. I definitely missed the sides. I'll leave a tooltip where they were, because I thought I was watching out the right side and I just never saw them. So, oh well. Maybe I was too fast this time. A train got in the way of them. I don't know. But you can see Thirsk is coming up, so that is, without question, the next thing we are going to see here. Thirsk Station. We're going to see a train in the station to the right, 37551 stopping service. Actually orients itself on that platform. It is scheduled to begin its service at 8:20 on our map, which means I'm a little early. I'm going to slow this down a little bit. Now, it's normal for that train to be seen on the platform anyway, but technically it's not in operation yet. So slowing it down a little bit is not necessarily a bad idea here. To try to allow for the trains ahead of me to start moving. I am just slightly early, so I'm down to 98 right now. I'm going to keep dropping a little bit further at this point. I want to bring the ETA to about 8:38 if I can. So here's Thirsk going by. You heard the other train in the platform. And now the platform lines are going to merge back into us on the left and right side. Those are the slow lanes. We also have the fast lanes that we are in. And these are the Thirsk sidings. You see them off to the left. I think there's some on the right as well, but you definitely saw the stock on the left in one of the sidings. So I'm down to 95 right now. This is fine. I'm going to put a throttle setting back on to maintain in this area for a little while. I'm back to 938, so I don't want to stay at this speed for too long. I do want to bring it back up, so up we go. We are now technically losing time, but we have till 8:40 to make our stop. However, seeing that I passed that train as it had not started yet, and I actually did this later on in the practice run close to Newcastle as well. I passed a freight train that hadn't started moving. You would expect it to be moving. The fact that I came to those trains before they moved shows that you need that as a scenario designer, and I don't care if it's a workshop scenario, if it's ATS, if it's AP, if it's DTG, it doesn't matter. You need to give enough time for the trains to start moving before we actually encounter them. So if they give it a practice run like I did when I went to explore the scenario, and I know AP does this because they make a point of putting out top-notch scenarios. I'm not trying to tell AP what to do. They do a good job with this. I'm sure some ATS devs do a good job as well, or people who post scenarios on ATS, not necessarily with ATS. But just as a general rule of thumb, figure out what time you expect the trains to meet, and then add 3 or 4 minutes, because there's going to be the slight room that a person has. If you're planning for 95 miles per hour, someone could travel at 100. You do need to plan for driving at the full speed limit and see what happens when a player drives at the full speed limit. And that's what you should really be basing your train movements on. So if your train is moving at, let's just say 9 o'clock, and a full speed limit gets you to the station at 8:58, well, that's 2 minutes of movement your train should have been doing already at that point. So at that point, you would want to have that train moving by 8:56 if you can get to that point by 8:58. And if it would be too early for that train to arrive where it is starting on your map, then it would need to be moved further back. Simple as that. But you would still want to have that train go by there at 8:58 or so. So it does take practice after you do some scenarios to get it right. That is another train going by. Let me give you that information. That is train number 47163. That particular train is already moving. It started its service at about 8:20 as well. Same time as the 551 stopping back there. We have an 80 coming up. I'm going to drop my speed very, very gradually at this time. So I'm just going to put a small brake application on, not too much. Again, we have plenty of time to get to our stop, so I'm not concerned at all about losing time here. That said, I have actually lost a little more time in that stretch. I somehow lost time down to 15. And I actually noticed on the run to Newcastle, the ETA jumps by about 2 minutes a couple times and then readjusts to normal. So if your ETA goes up strangely for no reason, don't mind it, it will adjust itself. I'll try to point it out when it happens, if I remember to do so. I'm down to 80.9, 80.8, 80.7, so I'm good now. I'm going to put a little throttle on so I don't lose it completely. There we go. I'm holding at 80.3 for a moment. And 80.2. So a little more throttle because I'm still losing. And here we are. We're gaining now at 11% throttle. So we're going to go ahead and figure out where we need to hold at this. I think 9% is roughly a good hold marker for this. So we're going to put it there. .3. Yeah, we're losing. It's okay. We can be a mile off here. It's not a big deal to be at 79. We have to wait for the train ahead anyway. So we are now under 15 miles to Darlington. We are going to be coming upon Northallerton station. It looks like the lines have left. So it looks like the two lines have already gone down to the left side here. I think this is Northallerton. It's going to be coming up right now. There it is. There's one side of Northallerton. There's the other side of Northallerton. So I'm going to poke my head out the window for a moment and just show you what's going on over here. If we don't have trees in the way. Notice the line going off to Middlesbrough over there. The other two lines down here cross under, as you may have noticed. So you're going to see them head off to the right now. I'm going to head actually out that window. And all the tracks, all four tracks merge over there and head off towards Middlesbrough. That's what you see. So there is a siding that is created over there as well as those tracks all merge. It does split, I think, it might be split into two tracks. Yeah, it does stay in two tracks. So basically the slow and fast lines merge in each case. You have to stay at two lines going in each direction, but the third line opens up as a siding, it closes, and then the route ends. If we were on the DP simulation version of the route, that would be a continuation of the route. Now keep in mind that Northeast England currently, as I report, does not go to beyond Darlington. So you can take that route to Middlesbrough and it will continue on to Middlesbrough and obviously beyond to Sunderland and part way to the east as well. But you will not be able to finish the entire route to Darlington on that run of the route. There is a separate East Coast Main Line Modern that he has on his site that does cover that full original route. Similar to the Just Trains one, I guess you could say, and which is no longer available, by the way. And it makes sense that they pulled that because there's a free one out there now. What are they going to do with the payware one if everyone's playing the free one, right? So it makes sense, whether it was bugged or not. But on the Northeast England, you cannot go beyond Darlington. That said, you can start at Darlington, you can head down another line to get to Middlesbrough. So that is an option on the Northeast England route as well. We're now 11.5 miles from Darlington. We did, by the way, at one point see 37010 pass. I might not have called it out. That was back before Northallerton, and that was right around the point where the lines went, where the slow line went under us and merged with the other slow line on the left. So it was around that point that that train passed. I don't think I called it out. So if I didn't, I now have. I also didn't know the Wensleydale Railway merging. That line does still exist today, though not in full. Part of the line has been abandoned and possibly lifted, but the part of the line does still continue. I think it's Red Hill or something like that. I don't remember the exact name. It does start with the color red. Redborough, I don't know. It's 7 letters. It starts with the red. So that's down that line. That is actually, I believe, the terminus of the line today. And it's not marked as even a local line. It is just marked as a line on the map. I'm not sure how often it is used, if at all. But there are several stations, so I assume that it is used to some extent. I would have to check the Open Railway map to know for sure. I'm watching for train 47279 at this point. That is the next train that I expect to pass. Again, slowly losing speed, but that's fine. I think I'm too early on my ETA anyway, so I'm just going to go ahead and let it decline. I found a good hold marker at 9% throttle, and I'm losing maybe 1 or 2 tenths of a mile every mile I go or something like that. So that's okay. I'll still be going about 79 as we get close to the signals up ahead that guide us into Darlington. So 9% is a fairly good hold speed, especially if you have your speed over 80 just slightly to start with. So this proves to be a good hold speed to stay within range of the 80. Even though it is 79. It's a nice casual 2-line drive. We'll go ahead and... What kind of camera view can I give you here? I don't know if I really want to change the camera view right now. I could ride on top of the train, but we do that all the time. I don't really have any features of the route to call out until we get close to Darlington. That's when we're going to see our next line merging in. So I'm just kind of riding along with you at this point, waiting for trains to show up to point them out. Again, 47279 would be the next train I see. There are only 2 trains between this point and Darlington. We're also down to 4.9 miles to go and dropping down. So I might be really early at this point. I'm going to go ahead and drop a little bit of throttle right now. I'm also starting to think I might have missed 47279. We also have 37191 coming along. That might have been 37. I'll know in a moment for sure. It looked green. Was that a BR green? Shouldn't be. Oh, they're all BR blue. I mean, I thought they were all BR blue. It just looked green. So a couple signals from now, I am expecting a red. So this should probably be a double yellow coming up here. Now you might be wondering why is a static double yellow coming up and not a flashing double yellow. It means that we have a stop signal ahead. Now sometimes when you drive on this route, that will operate as a stop signal that clears the moment you reach the panel, as long as you're not going too fast, I guess. But in some cases you can actually save the game at Northallerton, reload the scenario, and it will function properly as a flashing signal, and you'll get the flashing movement without having to come to a major slowdown. You just have to slow down for the speed limit after in that case. So it's interesting how you can save your game and the signal works, but if you play straight from the beginning, it doesn't work properly. And this actually does happen on the second scenario, the one that I played last time on Saturday. So it does happen on that scenario too. This is where we're going to probably see the double yellow. Yeah, that would make sense. The speed limit's up ahead. Here comes the double yellow, guys. I'm going to put a little speed on because I'm getting close to mile-a-minute territory, and that would mean that, well, you know what? I can stay around 65 for until the next signal, then I'll have to hit the brakes. You see Darlington up ahead. We're going to have a line from Eagles Cliff joining us up ahead as well. That line also contains Darlington South Junction siding 12. So both lines are going to join and travel alongside us. Now we're going to hit the brakes. Because right now the train at Darlington should be leaving, so hopefully by the time we reach a signal up ahead we do have a yellow. Because it should change without checking our status. I'm going to zoom in and show you up ahead here. It is still a red signal right now, so we are going to go ahead and hold our speed for the time being. Rather hold our brake, I should say. I'm going to go ahead and back up now. Notice the signal has now turned to a yellow. So it looks like it might still wait for us to come into range of the signal before changing for us. But it has changed to a yellow. We are good. So back up to 25 miles per hour. I'm going to hold the throttle for a moment to do that. We're still super early, so there's no issue with timing at this point. By the time we get to Darlington, the signal should possibly be green, in fact. I got a bell going through there on my practice run. It was green. So I believe the line from Eagles Cliff just joined, and those south sides, of course. They would have come in over from there. So now we have a number of lines running here. Well, I don't want to lose speed. Let's not do that. I'm losing speed with 34% throttle, ladies and gentlemen. There you go. Don't do that every day. throttle is now idle. We're going to go ahead and come in for a stop here at Darlington Platform 4. As you see, the train is long gone. And if I do look ahead, let's take a quick look. It is actually a green signal on our platform. The red signal applies to a siding that is to our left. There are more platforms to our right as well. So I'm going to take the train all the way up to the signal because I have until 8:40. There's no reason not to take this train all the way up to the signal, and that's exactly what I'm going to do right now. This will give the maximum possible room for the stop at Newcastle up ahead while also remaining realistic. I mean, you could put 4 or 5 cars out of the station, just open the last few, but that is not realistic, so we're not going to do that. Let me rephrase that. We're not going to intentionally do that. We could still do that if we don't stop properly. But I intend to stop properly. Keep in mind also the engine doesn't open its doors, so if you do put the engine past the signal, since it is not a red, that is perfectly okay. But the train fits very well. You don't need to actually do that at all. So inching forward just a little more. I don't think I'm going to get to 0. So I'm going to just... There I go. I got to 0. Perfect. So I got where I wanted to. Let's hit the brakes. We have arrived at Darlington platform at number 4. Let's look at our train as we depart passengers at 8:39. You have completed the Darlington passenger stop. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Departing Darlington, platform 4. Our next stop is Newcastle, stopping today at platform number 8. Off to the south, or off to the right, I should say, are the Darlington South Junction sidings. Numbers 1 to 11 should be the numbers that they go through, because 12 was seen further south of them. Heading to Eagles Cliff. Now, the station signs up ahead, I don't know if they're considered part of the North Junction signs, which are coming up. We're going to be going through the North Junction signs up ahead. And around the time we see the line head off to Bishop Auckland, we're going to see our next train go by. So we're now back on the main line. Well, almost. Now we're back on the main line. So we're going through the North Junction sidings at this time. They appear on the left and right. And like I said, we're going to see the line to Bishop Auckland heading off to the left. We're also going to see, at some point, the Darlington signal box. I believe it is on the right. We can go 80 now, so we're going to speed up. That is the Darlington signal box you see on the right, just going through the window there. And here is the line to Bishop Auckland departing right now. 2 lines heading to Bishop Auckland. You can see as the line departs that a train comes along. That particular train is number 55014. Actually, sorry. 47221 as a freight service passes. 55014 stopping service is the next train we're going to see. Hence why I said that one by accident. The moon continues to show over the buildings to the left here, you can see as well, as I maintain this view for a moment. And now we're going to hop back in the cab. So we're now in a 70 mile per hour speed limit. The speed increase has slowed with a 50% throttle now, but we are going to keep... Oh, now it's going nicely. Okay, we must have hit a little bit of an uphill, because now it's going very nicely. So let's maintain 70 here for a little while. I think about 7%, 6% maybe might be what we want to maintain at for 70. We don't need to be beyond 70, but if you can find a good holding spot, you might be able to manage staying at 70 here. Doesn't hurt to find that. I see we found it. I found it from my train anyway. Regardless of our status, I just gained a small wee bit there, but regardless of our status, we do have another 80 coming up here. After the 80, we will have a drop to 65 at some point, followed by going back up to 85. The exact location of this, I can't tell you for sure. That entire stretch, I've only gained 1/10 of a mile. Now 2/10 of a mile. So 7% is a good value to aim for. If you do find that you have a higher increase, you may want to drop to a 6%. Or if you find it's not going up at all, you may want to hold at 8%. So keep in mind that you can have a little adjustment in there. Just don't crank it up to 20%. You will definitely gain on that. So we're going to now move up to 80 miles per hour. As of that sign, we were shy of 31 miles to go to Newcastle. That train should be the next train on my list, which I'll get you in a second after I bring my throttle down. So that train, there's the 65 right there. That train was the, that might have been the 55014 in fact. So 37553 is most likely the next train coming up. So I'm now applying a brake application to get down to 65 in time. That's not good enough, so I'm going to do a stronger one. I'm back to a 5% throttle to try to hold in the 65 range. Looks like that would not be enough. It's still keeping some of my speed going, but it's dropping slightly. Not that it's a big deal. We're not going to be in this range for very long. We are going to move up to an 85 once again. By the way, here is 37551, I believe, going by. You may have noticed, by the way, looking at my ETA, that it suddenly jumped to a 918 again. Now, actually, that's not really a jump. That's where it was at one point anyway. But there's going to be a little jump in that to 919 and change at some point. I don't know exactly when that happens. It may be when we pass this 85 sign up ahead here. We're going to find out. You may want to keep an eye on that ETA because I'm too busy to do so. I have to manage my driving. We're now in an 85 miles per hour segment. We now have 27¼ miles to go to reach Newcastle. Eased off my throttle before reaching 85. I'm going to try to hold in the 84 range. I don't need to necessarily go all the way to 85. It is negligible at this point. And I am still gaining, so I'm going to move down to a 12 to, let's say, a 10% throttle. That train that passed, by the way, was 37247, so we should be seeing a line merging in soon. – 37247, by the way, is a stopping service today. So it would have started this movement on our map 2.5 minutes ago, so thankfully that is close to our next landmark, which means we can now note the Stillington line joining in on the right here. That's going to take us to the Ferry Hill sidings. You can see some cars in one of the sidings. The Thurston Quarry sidings are coming up as well. Interestingly, a yellow signal in one lane. That might have been 55001 going by. That would be running as a stopping service. And the Leamside line, if it hasn't already, should be departing. Let me just zoom in for a second here. Yeah, there's still lines over there. So Leamside line may or may not have departed yet. I think it's actually a little further ahead, so maybe that was not 55001. That might have been a different train. I might have called a train early at some point. But in any case, the Thurston Quarry signs are coming up. Or have already gone by. Sorry, they've already gone by. What am I talking about? So you can see the lines hanging out over there on the right side. Don't mind the wiper. And those lines have a red signal on them as well. We continue to have a green. We are good to go. And I believe those lines now continue north. They do come to an end in real life nowadays. The line beyond has been truncated. This is just more of a siding type area now. So there's nothing really here to do on this line anymore as it leaves us. There's nothing further. But it's possible that in this era, because the station is marked, a station is marked on that line, it is possible that in this era that route did exist, and you may be able to feasibly add it as a DLC to this route. However, another connection to the Leam sideline further ahead after Durham no longer exists in this incarnation, because I don't see the East Coast main line linked to that line. It was an additional spur of the East Coast main line. I need to hit those brakes fast. I was not responding to that. That was my fault. We're going to slam the brakes here. When you forget, the proper thing to do is panic! And panic worked out this time because I'm down to 65 miles per hour in time and we are proceeding. You can notice, by the way, that our ETA has now jumped to 919 for some reason. It is inaccurate. I'm not sure how it's measuring it now, but it is inaccurate. Something might have gotten in our path, and that might be why it's thinking, okay, I need to move you around a different path. But as that clears, we're going to be able to move ahead at normal speed. So I'm a little under 65. That's okay. So I believe you only have about 3-4 miles to go at 85 before you hit that 65. I think I remember saying it was 22.75 or 22.25. Something like that. We're now down to 18 3/4. Which means as we pass this 85 sign up ahead, we're going to be at 18 1/4 miles to go to Newcastle Station. Ideally, I'd like to do it without any further problems here. So let's try and do that. I had my heart attack today. Let's avoid another one. Actually, I guess we're going to be down closer to 18 miles to go to the station. Let's bring up the label for this one. You can see that that is 47032 freight. So that gives me a clue where I am in my listings. And I did see the 55001 stopping service after all, after the Leam side line or around that point. That means Durham Station is coming up next. I can go up to 85, by the way. So Durham Station is coming up next. The glaring on the moon has gone. I actually have a take of this where the moon was glaring bright as the sun, which was not realistic. So probably a good idea that I scrapped that when I went back to showing just the moon as it is. Or maybe it's supposed to be the sun right now. Maybe that is actually supposed to be the sun. Because it did show us the sun on those runs. So inconsistent graphics in the sky. This is one reason why I think people like playing with the Armstrong Powerhouse sky and weather enhancements, because it really does a number on the sky and makes it a lot better. However, using that apparently does make your screenshots ineligible for the screenshot contest, so you have to use the regular graphics if you want to, for the sky, if you want to enter the screenshot contests. And frankly, this is something that will never come to Steam, and I would not expect to come to Steam. Even if it did, it would be something that would modify the core game, and you would expect it to be something added to the core game, not as part of the, not as a separate add-on in the case of coming into Steam. So it has to stay in its third-party form. There's not really much choice of that. Plus, coming to Steam would mean that updates can't be made as frequently due to QA testing being required. So in this case, Armstrong Powerhouse can do their own testing and release their own enhancements to the pack. I think they've released some new snow patterns, in fact, to celebrate the fact that winter is coming. I think there's a new rain pattern as well, and some kind of new overcast as well. So they are constantly modifying the packs. I'm sure they are increasing the price a little bit every time they add something new to it. I believe as long as you own the pack, you don't actually pay anything extra. If there's a significant update, they might charge an extra 2, 3, 4, 5 pounds, which, by the way, I don't necessarily agree with that in all cases. There's the sun I was looking for. That is the sun right there. I'm on a downhill 1 and 279. You notice I was gaining speed for a moment there. So I quickly adjusted that. I'm going to go ahead and get on top of the train for a moment to show you the sun. And somewhere back here, I believe, is the moon. Can't see it through the bushes right now, but it is somewhere back there. Unless this turned into the sun when it was off screen, I don't know. So we're going to do a lighter decrease this time to get to 65. Our ETA is still 919, so it is still wrong. Because it is going to be 55 for a good chunk of space up to the 20 dropping into Newcastle. This is Durham Station. We now have just under 14 miles to go to reach Newcastle. Gonna put a little bit more brakes on to try and get our speed down in time. There we go, a little throttle to make sure we don't lose all the speed, and that will do for now. 5%. We have a 125 coming up. So we're not going to push this. We're going to keep in mind that we do have a brief opportunity to speed up ahead. And I do say brief because I have a feeling it's going to come down to 55 after Chester-le-Street Station, which is the next station. The additional link to the Leamside line would have passed by now, I believe. There was a left curve where that line branched off and then rejoined. The Leamside line branched off of that little extra bit. Unfortunately, that little extra bit of the East Coast Main Line has now been lifted. It is no longer needed or deemed necessary, as the Leamside line has also been removed. And I'm not sure which one went first, actually. I thought I saw something flashing for a second. I almost panicked. Nope, we're only at 64. We're good. I didn't mean to lower the throttle completely, though. That was a mistake. So back to 9% throttle I went. Or 8% throttle, sorry. Gonna move it up. There's a train going by. That sounds like a Class 37. So that was 37213 freight. We're now hitting a 125. Ironically enough, we're not going to get to use a lot of this 125 because as we continue along, we're going to start following another service. Basically a light engine, basically getting in our way here. We will increase a little bit anyway. There it is. So we're going to pull the throttle to idle to neutral as we hit a double yellow signal. We take the double yellow. Our ETA is still 919. We may take a single yellow up ahead, but I believe the light engine does move by the next signal. Nonetheless, if I do have a single yellow, I will slow down. We do have a single yellow aspect. Zooming in right now, I see we do maintain a yellow aspect, so I'm going to go ahead and Continue through the gold. The light engine ahead of us is now very likely moving at a good pace, so we probably don't need to worry about adjusting our speed, but just in case it's still going slower than us, I will go ahead and lower our speed just a little more at this point. So if I zoom ahead again now, you're going to see nothing. You can see the yellow signal now, so some buildings off to the left of that yellow signal. We have our beep again, the blare. It blareth at us again. There are a couple signals in close succession coming up, which tells me there's probably a line joining up ahead. I do expect to see a line joining at some point as we come into the 55. This is Chester Street Station. Continue to have a yellow. Now I believe a double yellow. Yes, that's a double yellow. Now the only problem is the 55 coming up. We have to manage. Now that we've been traveling at a slow speed in the 125 all this time, we have to lower our speed to 55 miles per hour. Well, that was worth having a 125, wasn't it? What a waste of a 125. Because going fast is fun. Going slow is not as much fun. I mean, it is fun, but not as much fun. You're at least moving. That's about it. And we now have green signals. That means that the light engine has apparently left our line. Here is... We did see a bridge going over, and I didn't call out what that bridge was. We went under the Pontop and South Shields branch. That's the former bridge for that branch. We then had the Consett line joining. That train going by is 47061, I believe. Here is the Consett branch as well. So that bridge just passed over before that branch joined as well. There you go. We're now hitting 55 miles per hour as our limit in a moment. We should see the light engine in just a moment. And I lied, 47061 is not perhaps the train we were seeing. So apparently an extra train showed up here, or the train started moving early. I don't know. Not sure what happened there. So we're not going to see any speed above 55 for the remainder of this journey. This is probably the time to lock in our throttle for that. So I'm going to go to a 4% for right now, and we're still losing, it looks like. So 5%. There's the light engine now in the far lane over there. So if that was the freight service, that freight service doesn't move until 9:10. That means I'm super early. I probably want to slow myself down here a little more. At the same time, I don't want to be late for my stop at Newcastle. So C'est la vie. Now you're wondering what these tracks are. These tracks are nothing. Other side, please. They don't connect to anything. There are tracks that go into that building that don't connect to anything. Trying to lower my throttle back to 5%. It's not taking. Come on. 5, 5. Okay, I need to take it right off now because I'm gaining too much speed. The throttle did not want to cooperate, so I'm going to have to take it off. We are on a downhill gradient anyway, which is now 1 in 394. The Tyne Yard is beginning off to our left. It is a huge yard. I'm not going to try and point out all the different things, even with tooltips, because it's just a huge, huge expanse of space. There are a number of different types of sidings in there. This is the gate area for the yard. That sounded like a Class 37. It also looked like a Class 37. I think it was actually a Class 47. That was the 47061. I must have forgotten which train that was before that. The train I passed before that was most likely... it could have been... Well, no, it could have been the 37 I saw before. I don't know. Not 100% sure anymore. Dispatcher may have changed his mind on this run. I don't know. Maybe set another train early or something. I have no idea. Since apparently 5% is on the table, I'm going to go ahead and hold it 4% for now. I want 5%, but it's not giving it to me. Give me the precious column. I'm not good at that. Don't think that's a good voice at all. So we're now about 2.5 miles from Newcastle. You can see speed limits coming up. We should be going by the low fell sidings as well. We're going to have another connection. We're going to have connections to the Tyne Valley lines. The Tyne Valley line is leaving right now to the left, but we're going to have another connection coming in, joining us from the Y that it goes by. There's a Y that the Tyne Valley line goes by as it exits there. So looking out the window for a moment, there goes the line exiting all the way over there. In that direction, those are the low fell sidings. The low fell sidings. You also have a path to Dunstan, which the station has been reopened since this route. It is open today on the Tyne Valley line. In this era, Dunstan was a yard. And it used to have a station and a yard. Then it was just a yard. Now it's just a station. Now, as the Tyne Valley line joins us from the Y, we're going to find that there is a train that we're not going to see, 47013, that is on that line. I may poke my head out the window and take a look over at him. I'm going to stay at 40 miles per hour for a moment because I have to make sure I don't go in too slowly. This is probably the last train we're going to see. You see it's 55014 stopping. This will be the last train that passes us on this journey. So now I think I can say the low fell sidings. Or maybe I'm going slower this time. The low fell sidings on my practice run were after that train. Now for the Panic 20. So here's the Tyne Valley line joining us, and I said on the left, it actually comes in from underneath and it rises like a phoenix from the ground there. So I'm down to 20 in time. We don't want to apply too much throttle here because a very small throttle will gain us speed. And it will help us to go way too fast. But 2% might be able to be held. So that's the time value line joining. And if I were to look out the window and go to the left before it's too late, we can't really see the train down there. But it is over there somewhere. I can't even bring it up with the label at this point. So I have no idea where it is. But it is back on the line somewhere. You're going to notice the East Coast main line itself continues off to the right as we continue on our path towards Newcastle. We're exiting left. So this is actually an exit to our terminus of this route. Now the nice thing about Newcastle Station is you can loop around from Newcastle and get right back onto the East Coast main line, the segment that left us, and then go straight back to York without having to change cabs. So you can do this all without changing cabs. But you do have to change cabs and drive the other one if you want to do successive services. So if you're leaving a yard, you're bringing the train to do a back and forth service and taking it back to the yard, you don't have to leave your cab. Now, I don't remember the name of this bridge. I'm going to put the information in the tooltip if I remember, or if I find it. But this is a very famous bridge. I'm going to actually I'm going to do that first. I'm going to bring my brakes off. And I'm going to go ahead and get a view of the train, which is not what I want to do. I want to get a view of the bridge. You see the bridge over there in the distance? I forget the name of that bridge, and I also forget the name of the bridge I'm on. But I will try to provide information in the tooltip as to what that is. As we continue forward, let's zoom back in on our train. We take a yellow signal as we enter Newcastle. We are now under a 15-mile-per-hour speed limit. And without any further complications on like speeding or anything, we should come to our stop. And we should get our 1,000 points that the game, unfortunately, is not programmed to give us. And we have to basically take ourselves. Again, not that the points do anything. They really don't. But I'm just showing how if you want to get a perfect score on a scenario, this is how you would do it. You would need to open the scenario properties file. And this is not an AP file. So you can actually edit this yourself. If you verify files, it will be replaced. But you can open the scenario properties file, just find the 250 in the career scoring section, change it to 334, and you're good to go for 1,000 points. All you have to do, change 3 digits. And then don't get caught on emergency brake by not responding to a signal, or speeding, or anything else. 9:18 is our arrival time. I'm lowering the speed a little bit so I have a little more control over the stop. The train is now coming in front of the so-called building on the HUD. I can get the whole train in before the signal. That signal is going to stay red. It will not change. But I should be able to get the entire train in before the signal. So I'm going to try to do that here. Okay, I'm going to keep going at this slow speed now so I can pull up to the signal. Try to fit the entire train. The signal on the right is not our signal. The signal ahead is. So I'm now at 0 from the signal. The entire train is in. I'm going to go ahead and open the doors at Newcastle if I push the right button. And that ends the scenario. Let's take a look at our train. So there is our train nestled in the backdrop of Newcastle underneath the roof there, as you'd expect. And you can see there are many roofs here. So some very nice shelter from the rain in these landmark stations. The stations built in the 1800s were really impressive. And really is amazing to see some of the structures that still hold up today. They don't design stations like this anymore. So it's really, really nice to see something like this. And this is the kind of thing you would want to see when you're on a tour of Europe. To see some of these fantastic stations, I think. You want to make your stop here. And other stations as well. So you finish your stop at Newcastle. Well done. You have completed this journey in accordance to the arrival and departure times. By the way, the train that you see on the left, which I believe is a Class 37, it is not marked as a service. So that's why I did not call it out. It is not a service. The only train we did not see, I believe, besides the one, and even the ones we were following we passed, the only train we didn't see was 37291. That was the freight service that was located down the East Coast Main Line, just in case I didn't call it out. Anyway, to our scoring screen. And that's that. So that's how you get 1,000 points, ladies and gentlemen. You have to have, I think, 800 points to get your gold star. And 750 is all you can get. So you know what? If that's what you have to do to get it to go, that's what you do to get it to go. And some of the scores are not on my list anymore. There were 4 there when I started. There should be 5 now, but they're not there anymore. So that's how you do it, ladies and gentlemen. And there's no other real comment to do that. You have to edit it yourself and then play it perfectly. Or you can edit yourself to a higher number and play it a little imperfectly and still do it. You know, whatever works for you. However you want to do it. In any case, that's the end of that scenario. I'm going to try to get a sim rail. I'm going to try and poke around and see if I can get a sim rail dispatching video in if I have time. And I stress if I have time. I may have to visit my... I did say I was going to visit my mother for the weekend, which is now past. So I may not have had enough time to get that video in. I'm going to try to do it because I intend to come home on New Year's Day, which is... And I don't know as I'm recording this if that's going to happen or if I'm going to be there for another day. But this video will be coming out on the 3rd regardless. That is the Tuesday. And if I can get a dispatching video in, it will be out tomorrow. Otherwise, I'm going to try and do 2 next week, which would mean I have to find something that has 2 scenarios so I don't leave a scenario undone. The 377 comes to mind as a possibility if I decide to do that, which would take us back to London to Brighton. So I'm going to keep the 377 in my back pocket just in case I can't get this sim rail video out in time. And if I don't, then I'm going to spend some time doing 2 videos next week. And I'm going to see if I can get both of those out before the game launches. So we're going to go ahead and do some more Train Simulator next week, of course. But as of Wednesday of next week, I kind of want to do a primarily sim rail for a little while. So we can at least start that game. I don't know if we're going to be able to get early access to the game. I don't think I'm going to be able to get early access to the game. For that one, I've inquired as to whether it's possible. I have not received a response. So we'll see what happens. But if I'm correct and if I do not get early access, I may have a hard time getting a video for Friday as I plan to. My goal is to publish a video on Friday. Having it a day early would allow me to have time to edit the footage I take and be able to put together the best possible presentation. Instead, I'm going to be rushing it as soon as it releases. If the game is not out by the time that the game releases, I may have to do an extra scenario from this to at least hold things up. In which case, I'll do a video as soon as, and it'll possibly be on Saturday in that case. So what happens is going to depend on when the game actually releases. Basically, when the game releases, I'm going to be playing it, and I'm going to be getting video for it. So keep an eye out for SimRail sometime at the end of next week. I'm going to try, and maybe for tomorrow if I can get a dispatching video done in time. But I am going to start doing the SimRail content now because I want to show that game off. But like I said, I'm not done with Train Simulator. I've got at least a couple more videos to do in Train Simulator before we go completely into SimRail. So look forward to that. And subscribe to the channel if you want to get notified of these updates. Actually hit the bell for those notifications after you subscribe. Make sure to also like this video, which helps me get more viewership on YouTube. So I definitely appreciate any of you who do hit that like button. I appreciate that. Other than that, not much else to say. Have a wonderful day, evening, or night, whatever it is for you at your part of the world. I will see you next time for possibly for some SimRail, but definitely for some more Let's Play Train Simulator Classic. I'm Cyclone. See you for whatever comes up next. Bye-bye.